Hello, one and all. I am settled in for day 43 of Blueprints. Still feeling under the weather, but I do have a coffee. Hopefully that'll offset all of the brain farts that will inevitably happen while I'm sick. Okay, I had some thoughts. So I think this is the correct date. There was that security room. Possibly somebody checking the security room monitors. We found that picture in the safe house. Is this supposed to be a space? It said delete it, and then there was an A on one of the screens. I'll have to check that out. There's still this wind-up key. I'm curious to know what that does. We still need to find a way to light the candles. Someone noticed that in the hovel there was a gas switch. There's so much stuff in these rooms. It's easy to miss stuff. This is something that I thought about. Do we get the sanctum keys from completing stories? Seeing that map kind of made me think, if we put some of the rooms together in a certain way, does that like make a story that we can follow? I don't know. That's maybe out there. Dynamite to buried area across from Big Red Door and underground. I thought maybe that's where we had to take the dynamite, and that might get us to that dig site. Because remember the miners said they blocked it off? The Arinda, if I'm pronouncing that right, site is what I'm talking about. Let's go see if we can get the hovel and we can get one of those taken care of. But I really think I need to get back into room 46. I haven't gone back since we went there the first time. I think there's going to be a ton of answers, a ton of ideas. There's also that thing about, he was talking about the tree, wanting to be buried by a tree. I think there might be something to that. There's just so many little threads in this game. There's the hovel. Okay. It's also special floor plans now cost additional footsteps instead of gems. Okay. That's okay. Look at that. Oh man. That's it? That's the third one? Crazy. We're one away. Clearly that's a rocket ship, and it's gonna lift off. It looks like the tower for something. Okay, wait. Did I see this? Oh, wait. Did I miss this? Where's room 46? 7590. Tested my full house theory. No luck, as expected. 45292. Those are the same colors as the dart puzzle, right? It would be 9 times 2 is 18. Divided by 9 is 2. Minus 2 is 0. 45 rooms. But like, is this just an idea of the guy losing his mind over this? I'm not sure. Just pick up the candle and light stuff with it. I mean, I feel like already we've done something pretty big. Traps. So footsteps are going to be important. Maybe I should have done that at the end. I don't know. Let's get started in the manor. And yeah, I didn't even think we can use the Blackbridge computer for the upgrade discs if I can't find another computer. That's some good advice. I like that, everybody. Thank you so much. Let's carry on. Also, let's set some expectations here, all right? Don't forget that I'm playing this alone. I'm recording it. Also, I'm sick. I will miss things. I'm sorry, but I'm going to keep going until I get absolutely stuck like this, because the discoveries are so great. And then when I can't progress, I'll do a stream. We'll work on the rest together. How's that sound? I think that's a lovely idea. I like to go north first. Wow, dark room right away. That's kind of fun. Let's do it. I'm not going to go in, though. now it's gonna, yeah, 3 steps. I think I'll get the library. And the bookshop. Okay, cool. Oh, the bookshop does have a door. I thought it was a dead end. That's my bad. So now we need to make some money. Although the gems aren't as important. I should have thought about that before doing it. Found that clock tower. Now there was that time at the bottom. So I wonder if the time is something I have to set in the clock tower, or if something happens at that time. Not sure. Oh yeah, someone suggested getting to the lavatory early just to get it out of the way. I mean, I can get that, but the storeroom's better. I don't know, I gotta play my own way at the end of the day, right? I've done okay. We're still progressing. I'm still hooked. So I've got 30. I think I need 40. Nook's great. There's also the chess pieces. I still don't know what that's all about, but I noticed that we haven't found... We found the queens. I haven't found the other king. And there's a bunch of knights. I need to keep my eye open for the knights. If you all spot one that I haven't written down, feel free to let me know. And I'll check it out. Oh yeah, and the spreading thing only spreads to rooms you've already discovered. Each time you enter dormitory after drafting a drafting room, gain 10 steps. We need to go into the dorm, right? I just don't know if I want to do it now. I'd rather keep things open. Commissary corridor, bedroom. Let's do bedroom. Okay, don't see any other things to pick up. Kennel. We could just go around the dark room for now. I do love the kennel. There you go, buddy. Still don't know what that is. I'm keeping it all in mind. Drawing room's really good. Having a bunch of entrances in the middle is awesome. What can I do with gems, though, other than unlock rooms? It's not like you can sell them. Oh, we can we trade them? I guess we could trade them at the... We trade them at the laundry room? Is that how that works? Ooh. Passageways. Perfect. Look at that. Right in the middle. Just trying to think, is there a reason to get the boiler room again? We still need to empty... We still need to empty the reservoir, but we don't need the boiler room for that, I don't think. Are there other rooms that we haven't powered? I guess it's the spare room otherwise. I don't think I want to get the archives right now. Boiler room's just more useful than spare room, but it's going to cost 3 steps. I'll get the boiler room. Let's see what's in these directions. Mechanarium. One door for each, whatever, that utility room. We only have one, though. The other ones are dead ends. But I do want to get the furnace, but I think maybe I'd rather have the furnace over here to power it. Let's take a look at the mechanarium. I haven't been in there yet. Or does that count? Or have I been in? I think I have been in here, haven't I? That one doesn't count. So we want to get a bunch of doors in here to see where they lead. They might lead to someplace cool. So maybe I should add that to my to-do list. Draft Machinarium. Is it Machinarium or Mechanarium? Meshanarium. Sure, why not? Dining room. We can get more steps. And we can go south as well. Okay. Oh yeah, someone pointed out, I like this find, that this symbol is just like the one in the Blackbridge grotto. There's repetitive symbols everywhere though. I don't know if this means there's a connection. It's not like I can interact with these. But that's pretty cool. But there's a bunch of symbolism that appears all over the place. That repeats all over the place. That would be a dead end. Well, not a dead end, sorry. Oh, we can go to the bookshop too. Let's do commissary. Just to see what's for sale. Looks like there's some keys. I will buy the shovel. And get the 2 items. A reroll and a key. We did find some shoveling spots. There's some in the boiler room and in the kennel. But let's just see what we can get north. I really gotta get out there. The secret garden, I think, is the way to get out. Okay. Definitely getting the vault. There's our money. Okay, so should I go back now? Well, I have to go back. I can go through the dark room. If I can figure out the password for that Blackbridge grotto, that would be pretty huge. Did I get that one? Yeah. So I got all the bishops, huh? I assume. The history of Arindia, though. Now I'm gonna get the Curse of the Black Bridge. Maybe we can come back for history of Arindia. Okay, so that we'll get that tomorrow. Let's go through here. No locked doors yet. So wait, if I get green rooms do not cost gems to draft, does that mean they won't cost steps either? Let's find out. We dig up turnips, right? That's stuff that something we've dug up before. Oh, some drawing issues there. Okay. Okay. Sharper than I thought I would be. Can I like? Oh, thought maybe I could do something with that. I think I looked around here pretty thoroughly, right? But I always think that, and I always miss something. Okay. We ordered the book. This day has already been great. Straight through. Other stuff to dig up here. Okay. Could go into the boiler room. So that's just always on now. That's cool. There's usually digging spots in here, isn't there? Huh. Not this time. Need to turn the power on. To turn the power on, I need to do that. And we need to do this. And we want it to go that way because it's going to give us a better chance to get a powered room. Interesting. The garage can be powered. The security room can, oh, it just carries it though, right? So I guess I want, oh, the garage should be cool too because I could go out. But I think I want the security room because I want to check out that monitor. Okay. Let me find that image. There it is. It says delete it. I think it's talking about this one. Doesn't that look... Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then 4. 3, 4, 4, and then smaller ones are here. Okay. So that's the archive room. Shows the archive. So there's something to delete in there? Or something was deleted? Not sure. Furnace. It's also going to be powered. Okay. Where we get a key, I think, right? I only have 6 steps left. I'll have 3 in a second. But that's okay. We've already accomplished a couple of things we set out to do. Still have a bunch of money. It'd be cool to find the freezer now. So should I do a re-roll? I think I should. Archives. Let's really look around here. The hell could it be talking about? Should I have interacted with the monitor? Delete the archive room? Is that the idea? Because it has all the information collected about... possibly her involvement in the theft? A. Yeah, I never really noticed this. I have no idea what that means, man. Is A the letter? No. Okay. But maybe there's something we can do in there if we put rooms together in a particular way. Can't go up the ladder. For those of you that aren't familiar with the game, let me know if you have any ideas. We might have to connect different pieces of information together, though. All right, well, I'm about to run out of steps. Oh, that'd have been so cool if it was the freezer. Okay. Turn up. Well, we unlocked doors. Why was there a beep, beep, beep there? Oh, that's because we got to the 8th thing, right? No, we didn't. Huh. Wait, oh, it unlocks the power doors too. Okay. Not that it matters right now. Oh, I want to check that out. I could get like a bedroom that gives me steps. No. Oh, I grabbed it before I ran out of steps. Nice. Drafting Strategy, Volume 2. I don't think I'm gonna read this all out. Fine, I will. As architects, we know that designing a building is a complex and multifaceted process. From the layout to the details, every decision we make can have a significant impact on the final result. Perhaps that's why we're always looking for ways to improve our craft and refine our ideas. I'm just gonna need to drink a little bit while I'm reading this. In this edition of Drafting Strategy, we're excited to introduce a useful concept that can take your designs to the next level: room subtypes. While we've previously explored the use of colored floor plans to categorize the basic kinds of rooms, in this issue... Oh, did we get steps for coming in here? Because it's a bedroom? We will be examining architectural symbols that can be used to further classify and differentiate the types of rooms. Okay, so it's just talking about like the drafting rooms, the craft of the draft, class of its own. Academia isn't only found in the mountains of Costa Rica. Classroom is a great example of the scholastic strategies that this room type has to offer. Not only does it provide synergy for other drafting rooms, it's also a valuable source of information and knowledge. Did you know the classrooms you'll find will fall under one of 8 different grades? Ah, okay. Oh, there we go. Grade 8. However, there are rumors of an additional annex classroom at Mount Holly Elementary, solely for exams and student testing. Finding it has to be near impossible as it requires drafting more than 8 classrooms. Ooh, okay, there's another to do. Draft all the classrooms. As there's a secret one after they're all drafted. All right, all right. We already know about the drafting ones. Shifting gears. Far from the pristine white pages of academia, the mechanical world is a rugged industrial space marked by the symbol of a gear and stained with the grime of heavy machinery. These floor plans prioritize function over aesthetics, and the design of each mechanical room reflects this focus on efficiency. These rooms serve as the command centers for estate operations, housing the control systems to keep everything running smoothly. Explaining the ducts, provide steam power, transport it across great distances. When you're in a room, look up. There might be a duct. Drafting from a door that is steam powered will increase the likelihood of drawing rooms with ducts. See, I would have found this stuff out eventually anyways. It's just you find stuff in different orders in this game, and it affects the way that you end up playing, right? Okay. Ah, here we go. There's a furnace one. Sauna, right. Stuff that lets you prepare for the next one. And then we can freeze what we have. Entering furnace or sauna after drafting freezer will thaw any frozen gems or gold you're carrying. You'll once again be able to use them. However, if you still wish your accounts to carry over the next day, you can freeze them again. If furnace is drafted within a few ranks of freezer, then the temperature will start rising and everything will melt, including your assets. Oh. If the temperature gets too high, refreezing will no longer be possible. Perplexing. Yeah, I don't like those anymore. Spreading your wings is spread stuff. For locker room, you collect keys to open up the locker rooms. We've gone through all the locker room stuff. I wanted to use this segment to thank all of our readers for the wonderful mail, and let me thank all of my viewers for the lovely comments we've received after we sent out our very first issue of Drafting Strategy. It's incredibly rewarding to... Okay, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Dorm room? Black Pond. It's even more rewarding to know that somewhere out there a young architect is reading our magazine and getting inspired to build something of his own that may one day in turn inspire others. So this is just something that every house can do in this world. When I was a child, I vividly remember the experience of reading the memoirs of the court's grand architect, Luza T. Rayland. To say it changed me is an understatement. It had a profound effect on the way I view the world and the spaces within it. We each draft our own dreams as a child fate sketches on blurry blueprints, legible to all, especially ourselves, and our purpose. Why it is found hidden in the floor plans of our youth. So this be a hint? Oh yeah, I did get more steps. It wasn't because I went in there and read it quickly. The hall pass! You will not lose traveling between two adjoining hallways. Hallways drafted from an adjoining hallway do not cost diamonds. Okay. So I guess... Hall pass? Hall pass. In dorm? Maybe it's just in classrooms in general? That's a pattern. Oh, we heard about Korakara, right? Korarika? That's important. So now we know that symbol is associated with Korarika. Maybe I should create a... Oh, underworld. Let's go... Realms. Korarika, down, pointing, arrow, yellow. These colors are important too. I just like doing it, okay? So a drafting student, I guess? Bowling? Unless I could dig in the closed exhibit, we're stuck, aren't we? Which would kind of be weird. Their fathers be proud of us. I don't know if there's anything else to do. I feel like I might be able to get in through there or something. I looked at all these, right? Let me take a look at that map again. See, it's like... where to go? Portrait room. And then the gallery. So if we can get the portrait room to the gallery, maybe something will happen? I don't know. But that's it for now, right? That's okay. That was good. We want to get back into... check the book. Back into the library. I was just spending a second to think, is there anything else I can do? Can't go up through the foundation. I don't think so. That's fine. Red Villa. And we did the hovel thing, which is good. 3 items found. Let's go day 44. Uh-oh, I broke it. Let me update this just so I remember. In case I need it. Get the den. Ooh, the attic. I'll take those. Compass. The battery. Gem, broken handle. A key. Gem and the coupon book. Okay. Ah. It's notable. There's one of those chairs. Yeah, I'll open it. You should get more back than you invest. See? See? Okay, it's not like I missed some cool view there. This room is just like full of every symbol we see over and over and over again. Go drawing room. And we'll see if we can get the library. Man, I dig that music. This song reminds me of a song from that song from Blade Runner. I don't know if you guys have watched Blade Runner. Oh, that's kind of a weird touch point for music like this. It's just saxophone, right? I think. Library. Okay. This is going to give us the password. We're the only one that's gotten it. Author, Redford Ewing? Yeah. Okay. We also have... oh, we don't have the magnifying glass. Shit. Forward. The legend of the Black Bridge is one that's well known to the people of the Grand Realm. For versions of this tale have been passed down from generation to generation. With each new telling, the story has changed, becoming, over the years, more colorful, more verbose, and as one might expect, increasingly horrifying. However, with so many renditions and unique personal touches, the task of confining and binding this tale to text seemed an ambitious and impossible challenge. I understand you. Trying to get all these stories straight seems impossible. Over the course of my research, I have heard dozens of variations of the legend. And while the details would often change, I was surprised how much of the story's heart remained the same. Yet the more I listened, the clearer it became that there could never be a definitive version of this tale, capable of capturing all the wonder and myth of Black Bridge. I've been looking into the, because they released a bunch of more JFK assassination files, and I've been like revisiting the concept, and it's kind of the whole like conspiracy thing versus whether Lee Harvey Oswald did it alone kind of reminds me of that. It's like, I'm pretty sure he acted alone at this point, but like it says, there could never be a definitive version of this tale capable of capturing all the wonder and myth of all of the stories that have come out of that possible conspiracy. In the end, I choose to write down what felt most authentic, the story my grandmother told me as a boy long ago. Part 1. Okay, is that the code? The Berry Picker from Oris. Many, many years ago, before peace had become a familiar word, there lived a group of rogues so wayward that the locals deemed it appropriate to call their number the Unholy Hounds. Okay. They were feral outlaws composed of society's worst at a time when society was at its worst. And for each crime that fearful travelers credited to the group, a dozen more lay unclaimed, each worse than the last. For the gentry, however, who often value their coffers more than their companions, no crime could measure more wicked than the group's primary enterprise, high road robbery. One such member of this so-called band of rogues was a boy of 13 years, Jesper, who had not been lucky in life, having lost 2 brothers to war and parents to famine. In the years of hunger that followed, Jesper lived in a gutter behind a churchyard, relying on the nourishment of scurrying bugs and weeds harvested from the cracks of the alleyway to sustain his pitiful existence. It is not surprising that a child aiming to escape such hardships would take any easy road out, an easy and well-traveled road, paved with temptations, leading out of the city and into the gentry lands where loose purse strings entwine with the strands of salvation and glisten equally with the hope of opportunity. Lovely writing. It was this road that eventually led Jesper to the end of his youth, a hidden cave at the bottom of Black Bridge Canyon. It was here that he met his surrogate family and saviors, that notorious gang of godless outlaws known as the Unholy Hounds. Okay. Do I have to count the number of berries? Despite the hardened circumstances that had led him to this vocation of banditry, Jesper was surprisingly tender-hearted and was often teased by the group for being too kind for such an ignoble life. For this reason, Jesper was assigned the innocent role of berry picker. It was not just innocence that set berry picking apart from the gang's more wicked undertakings, for it was the only duty performed without the safety of night's concealment. Jesper, no stranger to solitude, did not protest that he alone worked, while the others slept soundly, tucked away in the cave at the bottom of Black Bridge Canyon. On one such occasion, Jesper decided to get an early start. He left the cave, berry basket in hand, and set out into the woods before the morning sun had even brushed against the tallest treetops. It was colder in the mornings, but the headway dawn afforded meant Jesper could reach the furthermost berry patches without worry of being chastised for tarrying upon his return. It took over 3 hours on foot to reach his destination, and along the way, Jesper had passed by many a familiar bush, all priorly pillaged and so bereft of berries that one would have to dedicate several moments in earnest examination before finding a single one. Jesper was patient, but even patience has its limits. He was confident that even accounting for the time lost to this long stretch of travel, his efforts would be well worth the pains. Surveying the patches in this new grove surprised even Jesper. The red dots... Oh, the red dots in the server room? Are they red? Okay. Maybe, and I wonder if that image, they are red. See the ones? Okay, so this is a hint on the dots. I think I got it. Surveying the patches in this new grove surprised even Jesper. The red dots suspended among the leaves seemed as numerous as stars in the skies. Upon seeing such a bounteous sight, he clutched his berry basket tightly and nearly toppled over out of joy. Once he had regained his senses, Jesper quickly made a decision. He would not reveal the location of this newfound treasure. Instead, he would earn the respect of his confederates who, upon seeing his yield, might attribute the success to hard work. Smiling at his plan, Jesper set off to fill his basket and was making steady strides in this task when the sound of thundering hooves interrupted him. We have some coffee here. A carriage! A carriage is approaching! The thought of it made Jesper freeze. Had he been so enchanted by his discovery that he had neglected to observe his surroundings? How could a roadway be so close? He ducked down and crept toward the impending sound, hiding behind one of the larger bushes nearby. It was only a moment more before the sound source revealed itself. Within 50 paces of where Jesper hid, an elegant carriage with gold trim came soaring around a corner of trees, led by two beautiful white horses, and conveyed by a stern-looking driver seated atop the vehicle, flaunting the most sophisticated regalia Jesper had ever seen. It was not just any carriage, it was a royal carriage. Even without ever having witnessed such a sight before, Jesper was certain. The sight had so transfixed Jesper that he stood awestruck, unable to tear away as the carriage approached. The little concealment the bush provided was soon proven unequal to the driver's lofty perch, and upon spotting the boy, he pulled the reins with such effect that the noble steed slid to a sudden halt with precise control. This is a lot of text just to let you know to count the red lights or something like that. "You boy, get out from behind that bush," he shouted with a rigidity that betrayed a modest amount of fear. "You startled me half to death. Come round the bend of my own drive, and me seeing such an unfamiliar face in a place where there ought not be any face." Jesper quickly contemplated running. The man was much older, and his dress was suitable for courtly behavior, not dashing through the bramble and mud. I was picking berries." Jesper raised the half-filled basket up to allow the driver to see the proof of his words. The demeanor of the man suddenly changed. It was a change that Jesper was familiar with. He had many times seen the same stern expression on the most fiendish bandits melt away when presented with a berry basket. Any suspicions that the driver might have had instantly evaporated, for even the notion of a member of the Unholy Hounds picking berries seemed farcical. The softened expression even made allowances for a smile. "Berries, eh? Say, you couldn't have picked a better spot for them, could you? I used to pick berries here as a boy." Jesper took his cue to finally step forward, out from behind the bush, proudly brandishing his basket. "I know, and what luck I found them. I've only just begun picking, and look how many I have. It would have taken me fourfold the time back home to procure this number." The driver bent down for a closer look. "And where's your home, boy? Must be quite far." Jesper replied with a scripted response. "A little south of Tanner Fork, just past the burnt woods." Is that a hint at something? Oh, let me make sure I took a picture of that last one. "My God, that is far. You couldn't have come all that way only this morning." It was true. Tanner Fork was in the exact opposite direction that Jesper had traveled. And while that response would seem perfectly reasonable in a location closer to Blackbridge Canyon, you could see why it might seem less believable here. "Sir, I have traveled much further for much less profit. I dare say there is no distance yet made by man that would not be worth undertaking for a prize such as these. Surely you have tasted them for yourself?" Jesper felt happier with his response, as it seemed to amplify the man's smile. "In my youth, often, but perhaps I took it for granted because I never had to travel very far, and even then my father would always drive us here in our carriage. So I'm ashamed I never had to walk such a stretch to earn an equal reward. It was Jesper's time to smile. Then let my efforts reward us both today. He raised the basket even higher. A taste in memory of your youth, sir. The driver chuckled and removed one glove, bending over the seat to reach down to the basket. And at the moment, his fingers touched the first berry. The dagger in turn met his throat, cutting through a superficial layer of skin and drawing blood. Jesper caught the man's startled eyes. And for the taste, I will have your purse, sir, in memory of my youth. The driver's arm had gone stiff, his chin raised and trembling, more frightened than he had ever been before. Whether unable or incapable of speaking, he did not respond to the boy. Perhaps he did not think his jaw could afford to be engaged at this particular time. Jesper let the basket drop, freeing his other hand to probe the man's pockets. Do not mistake me, sir. I will not kill you if you give me no cause. Though I will admit, the thought of taking your carriage and leaving you the indignity of walking appeals to me. Unable to find a purse in the man's coat, Jesper pivoted to search the seat under him. Why have you no purse upon your person? The driver slowly raised his hand cautiously, pointing toward the carriage door behind him. Jesper lowered the knife's edge a small degree to allow the man to speak, which he did, in turn softly. There's a lockbox in the carriage. Well, come down and then grant me the courtesy of sparing your life and binding your hands. A concession, I assure you, of my tender heart, for it would be much easier to slit your throat. The man started to comply, slowly lowering himself from the driver's seat of the carriage. Once down, Jesper guided him away from the carriage to a nearby tree where he instructed him to get on his knees and put his hands behind his back. Excusing his inexperience, the man indulged Jesper while he figured out how to adequately bind him. The smile and kindness Jesper had seen on this man's face, now nothing more than a distant memory. In their place, cold, dark eyes displaying no emotion. I wonder, should I grant you the same clemency you are showing me? Jesper stopped, surprised by the question but ignored it, secured the final bindings, and then hastily returned to the carriage. With one hand on the door's handle, he turned back to the man. If there is no lockbox, there will be no clemency. Inside the carriage was surprisingly dusty and unswept, a stark contrast to the elegant and polished golden facade of the exterior. It had apparently been many years since a passenger had enjoyed passage in this vehicle. This all but confirmed what Jesper had suspected. The driver of this carriage was not a liveried servant in the employ of some greater master. It's not a word I say a lot, liveried. Any curiosity that this observation might have further produced was quickly abandoned upon seeing what rested under the carriage's back seat. A large wooden lockbox. Despite its hefty appearance, the box was surprisingly easy to handle. Within a few minutes, Jesper had dislodged it from its hold and carried it out into the sunlight. Inspecting the box carefully, two observations were made. Totemic symbols found carved on all four sides of the box hinted that the box was very old and likely not created by Arindian hands. It reminded him of artifacts from the old world and was presumably crafted in one of the ancient realms. Secondly, the box is secured by a rusted yet robust padlock and would not open easily. How long is this story? Without a key, Jesper looked over to see the driver quietly observing from his indentured position. Do you perhaps have a key you can provide me to open this box? Without emotion, the driver replied, There is no key to that box. Jesper stood up. Easy enough then. I wish I had the magnifying glass for this. He headed over to a nearby rock of sizable dimensions and lifted the stone up, carrying it back to the box. If there was ever a time when that lock had been resistant to brute force, it wasn't recent. Okay, they're saying it's weak. With one hit, the stone had completely shattered the rusted lock. He bent back down and opened the lid. Inside was an effigy, a crude figure chiseled from stone. Without too much deliberation, Jesper bent down and picked it up, somewhat surprised how heavy it seemed given how light the box had felt. Having expected to find something more akin to gold or gems, he looked questioningly to the man, hoping to find an explanation. The driver's smile had once again returned. You are cursed, boy. For deadly is the stone. You have opened that which should have never been opened, and you are cursed. Love it. Jesper carried the effigy over to the man and shoved it in front of his face. What is it? That's one. Feeling his disappointment rising to anger now, Jesper tightened his grip on the effigy. One what, you mumbling adjutor? And in God's name, why have you no purse upon your person? The man did not seem intimidated. 1 pace. He paused for effect. 12 more, and you will be dead. He only had a second to flinch before the effigy struck him in the head and put an end to his cryptic ramblings. If there was ever a time when the old man had been resistant to brute force, it wasn't recent. Jesper looked down to say, I like that. They're bringing back the lock line, right? Let me get some coffee. There we go. Jesper looked down at the sculpted stone figure, now splattered red. Was it cursed? Was he cursed? He had, of course, heard stories of curses, and had never doubted their validity in the past, but now that he was standing face to face with the possibility of being cursed, his mind pled with him to be skeptical. And if he was cursed, what difference would the knowledge make? A dozen more paces would not be enough to find another living soul. To say nothing of the chances of procuring a remedy. Well, if he got on the carriage, that would be less than 12 paces, which is probably why that guy's on the carriage, because he's cursed, right? He was probably told that he couldn't walk more than a certain number of paces. I wonder if that's the case. It makes me think of those effigies that were in the sanctum. If he did not move from where he now stood, he could live maybe another 3 or 4 days, maybe more given the abundance of nearby berries. A plan that, if we ignore its obvious faults, might provide... Oh, that's my cursor. Might provide additional opportunities for help to come along. But what good would that do to be discovered here? Beside a body, stolen goods in hand, bloated from berries and raving about a curse that could very well not be real. No, it would most certainly be better to face one's fate now, take a dozen paces and see if life goes on. But Jesper found his legs unable to make that first step. His mind was unable to convince his limb to waste away 1/12 of his life in a single motion. Feeling the desperation sink in, he hopelessly looked about him for a solution. And if by some stroke of luck the gods had heard his plea, a miracle materialized before him, as if he found himself suddenly at the end of a fairy tale. 2 white horses and a carriage of golden trim were beside him, the answer to his immediate prayers. He laughed at his fortune and calculated the short number of paces back to the road. 4, perhaps only 3 if he jumped. He made a quick survey to see if there was anything he wished to grab before taking the plunge. He thought about removing the driver's fancy coat, as that appeared to be of some value, but the additional risk of undertaking such a task too great to chance. And so, after a profound breath, he took his 2nd, 3rd, and 4th steps, though they were quite large. Seated now behind the horses, he reached for the reins and suddenly realized that he was still gripping the effigy. If the curse was real, then it would most certainly be better left here. If, on the other hand, the story was fictitious, there might be some appraisal that could be made of the figure. It was, after all, found within a lockbox. His typical function oft secures objects of value. Having witnessed firsthand the horrors of destitution, Jesper found his mind equally reluctant to allow his hand let go. If it is cursed, I die. If not today, then tomorrow. And if I die, what care have I? And with that statement said aloud to the horses seemingly, Jesper took up the reins with confidence. Part 2! Okay. What did it say? Part 2? Below the Black Bridge. Miller awoke to some light nudging from a familiar foot. Only one person would have the cheek to awaken her in such an ill-mannered fashion. Shaking the sleep from her eyes, she glared up at him in the darkness, but did not say a word. He nudged her again, teasingly, then stepped back into the dim. After taking a moment for her eyes to adjust to the darkness of the cave, Miller remembered. She was on third watch today, quietly collecting her things and wits. Miller turned as she left, waving her young friend, who was more than likely already asleep. She crept through the cavern's main passage, careful to not wake the sleeping bandits around her. Like a hero in a book, she often mused. Quietly, she grabbed a bow from the haphazardly formed pile of weapons, shaking the accompanying quiver in the darkness to assess how many arrows it held. She then walked toward the sun-drenched mouth of the cavern, ready to start her shift. Above her in one of the few trees found in the canyon, Miller could see that Ravia was already posted. She waved and Ravia waved back. Calling out to each other was strictly forbidden. Anything louder than a gesture in the canyon was forbidden. When Miller reached the tree, Ravia lowered a braided rope and pointed to the ground behind her. Miller turned following the finger and saw a pail of water resting beside a nearby log. She turned back to Ravia, nodded, and secured the pail to the rope. The pail went up first, and in turn, Miller followed. Ravia reached across to grab the water. Miller leaned back to give her space. I wonder if this is also part of the puzzle. Maybe there's a series of challenges in there. There's not much room for maneuvering in this tree post. A necessary concession for the concealment the outpost demanded. Ravia tilted the pail up to her mouth dramatically, illustrating how thirsty she had been. Miller laughed silently as water poured out, splashing onto Ravia's face. It was a bit too daring and noisy of a joke, and had the others been around, they would have certainly been scolded for the unwarranted sound. But Miller appreciated the efforts Ravia took to verbalize the silence of the morning. They had been on third watch together for over a month, and during the speechless time, their friendship had grown into something special. Affection was unsurprisingly scarce among the unholy hounds. She had felt the camaraderie before, of course, but intimacy, never. From their elevated vantage, the girls could see both the concealed entrance of the cavern, as well as a clear view of the bridge that spanned across the canyon. Black Bridge was the link between the Gentry lands and the northern mountains, the overpass that connected Oris and Reddington to the city. Maybe I should write this down. Black Bridge. General. Connected Oris and Reddington. Gentry to the northern lands? Northern mountains, sorry. The overpass that connected Oris and Reddington to the city-faring travelers of the realm, the bridge was an unavoidable crossing. In the day, the task was to ensure that travelers passed by without stopping. At night, the task was to ensure that they do. Like most of her band, Miller preferred the night. The biting glare of the sun might be tolerable to farmhands and bricklayers. To a cavern-housed bandit, it was a source of constant annoyance. In the day, there was no shroud to conceal her expression, nor to hide her thoughts. She felt exposed. Ravia touched her elbow and pointed up. Miller, striving to support a budding smile, suddenly shook her head in response. There were many signs that the unholy hounds used in lieu of words, but the two of them had developed an extended vocabulary, gestures quietly forged in the shared solitude of their month among the branches. She watched as Ravia shifted. Haven't I seen Ravia before? Hold on. Like one of the gods or something? She watched as Ravia shifted, placing her palms flat on the floorboards beneath them. Miller knew that she was trying to say, but shook her head a second time. It was often more fun to pretend not to understand. Ravia rolled her eyes and turned away. Looking back to the canyon, squinting through the leaves, the two girls held still, watching and listening. It's not long until Miller, too, heard the sounds of approach. Yeah, I don't think we have. I did a search. I couldn't find it. Oops. Ravia held up two bent fingers, and a few moments later, two men emerged from the bridge's southern end. They were dressed in a familiar uniform, long gray coats with black facings, white waistcoats, and black tricorn hats. They belonged to the local patrol, the Blackguard. Okay. So those are, that's an organization. We had the Red Guard before. Long gray coats with black facings. What was it, a black tricomb? White waistcoat, black tricorn. They belong to the local patrol, the Blackguard. Although not an everyday occurrence, their presence at Black Bridge wasn't an unusual sight. Typically indicated an important traveler's impending passage across the bridge. Information that the girls would promptly relay to their leaders as soon as the coast was clear. But this report, while exciting, was rarely acted upon. In Miller's 5 years in the Unholy Hounds, she had never once seen a carriage taken in open daylight when the Blackguard was nearby. The men had nearly reached the bridge's north end when Miller heard the horses faintly at first, but growing louder with each passing moment. Ravia's eyes met Miller's, the same concern mirrored in each other's expression. This did not sound like the typical carriage, cautiously approaching the bridge to cross. Instead of the familiar crunch of the high road's gravel, they heard the harsh clattering of hoofbeats against stone. Both girls quickly redirected their attention downwards, looking through the foliage. The sounds were not coming from the high road, but from the canyon itself. The horses were coming from below the bridge. In an instant, Miller had knocked an arrow and drawn her bow. Go! Ravia was gone before the whisper had even left Miller's mouth. The young scout was already sliding down the bank below, racing toward the cave. There was no road that ran below the canyon. There was no reason for numerous horses to be approaching their cave. There was only one reasonable conclusion, and both girls had reached it instantly. The base had been compromised. This is a Blackguard attack. The moment the horses came into view, Miller let loose her first arrow. She was surprised to see a carriage. She had expected cavalry. Before she even finished... Oh, it's going to be the guy, right? From the first part. She was surprised to see a carriage. She had expected cavalry. She thought her second arrow was in the air. Without a trail, it would be unthinkable for a carriage to traverse such rough terrain. Yet she watched as the wheels jolted over the rocky riverbed. A third arrow was now in flight, and there would be no need for a fourth. The driver slumped over just moments before the vehicle dipped into a small ditch, slamming into an embankment. Cursed indeed. Now, if he had walked, I wonder if he would have survived. The force of this sudden halt immediately shattered the front two wheels and catapulted the driver from his seat. Utterly confused now, Miller quickly glanced over her shoulder to see if any horses were also approaching from the rear. Down in the canyon, the entire horde of the Unholy Hounds came spilling forth from the earth, as if hell itself had suddenly sprung open. The group seemed even more bewildered than Miller, half asleep and tripping over one another in a desperate attempt to engage an unseen enemy in combat. Miller could see Ravia among their number, the only one looking up at her. Her expression was chilling. There would be no need for a silent gesture to convey what they both now realized. They had made a mistake. The gang's chieftain, Joffrey Heartslasher, led the others cautiously, approaching the crashed carriage like a suspicious fox would near a baited trap. There were no words exchanged as the group crept forward in customary silence. A dozen or so paces in front of the wreckage lay the far-flung driver, an arrow protruding from his broken body, and beside him, a blood-stained effigy carved from stone. I can't really tell what that looks like. What does that look like to all of you? Seems pretty formless. Miller was inconsolable. There's the Orindia symbol. Jesper had always been her favorite. He had always shadowed her in the night, clinging to the hems of her every move. The way a child tails behind an older sibling. Tender-hearted, she'd always called him, though deep down she had known that wasn't quite true. His appearance of gentleness concealed a raw, resilient durability that emerged in the most perilous of situations. He had been a flower among the nettles of this cave, but he still had thorns, honed by a grim past and 100 hands of misfortune. 101. They buried him in the darkness, in the back of one of the large cavern rooms. He was interred with a berry basket and a silk handkerchief that he had treasured. The mysterious effigy they had found beside him served as a distinguished gravestone, a marker that stood out as somewhat special among the rows of similar swords, marking neighboring plots. Okay. No one spoke, not even whispers. There was nothing to say. Anything special aside from that symbol? Once again, it would be great to have the magnifying glass here. Is that the effigy there? Miller awoke the next day to a thunderous shaking and rattling of the earth. A far cry from the playful nudging of the previous day. She strained to adjust her eyes, but the choking sting of a stirred-up dust caused her to flinch. Panic was also in the air. The sounds of scurried footsteps and clattering feet filled the space around her. But even in alarm, the silence was louder. What was it that sounded so strange? Miller closed her eyes tight and used her feet to guide her along the passage. The whispers around her were getting louder, and intense voices could be heard ahead. Louder speech than she had ever heard spoken in the canyon. A growing dread grew as Miller approached the mouth of the cave, her eyes now open, wide, despite the dust. Shouldn't it be day? Miller felt a hand in the darkness, pulling at her. It was Ravia. The two embraced, and Miller did not need to see her to understand. Ravia placed 2 bent fingers against Miller's cheek, and with that touch against her face, Miller felt the same sinking feeling from the previous day. 2 bent fingers confirmed what Miller had suspected. The girls had forgotten to relay one critical piece of information to the others. An hour or so later, the screams began. Blood-curdling cries of hopeless desperation. Captain Fodrick Lee of the Blackguard looked down from the ridge of the canyon to the collapsed entrance of the cave. Ah, he grinned. Now they speak. What? Okay, I don't really get the end of that. Was it because they buried him in the darkness in the back of one of the larger caverns? Okay, that made it collapse? Yeah, the gravestone, okay. That's it. Redford Ewing. I feel like these names have meaning too, like Redford Ewing. Let me write that down also. What would I write though? Clues are in the books. Count red lights. Redford Ewing. Wow, that was a lot of reading, everybody. Let's go back out and take a look.